You're live.
Okay, I'm live. Hi all, welcome to the YBMB show, Monday. So it's body day, and thought I'd bring you on location, which is basically walking through the park on the way back from the gym. Just sunny just now. Now it's absolutely freezing, so if it starts to rain, I have to head for cover. I wanted to talk today to you, particularly those of you who, sort of think, well, it's all lovely having a six pack and everything, but I'm not interested in that. It's not something that I'm going to spend my time in the gym trying to achieve. It's just not important to me. And I hope you understand that. The reason that I started YBMB in the first place, with Body Means Business, with that name, as the name suggests, is not to set it up as a personal training sort of exercise program. It's so much more than that. It is that, it incorporates that. But it was very much with a means to an end, because when I discovered myself what happens with your your ability to organize yourself and to get things done and to make things happen in business, and how that changes as a result of changing your body, I realized that this connection was so important. And very often people may get a business coach or they may get a personal trainer, as very, very different things in their lives. And, maybe even a mindset coach, as all very different things. And yet actually the two things are very, very much connected. That's what I really wanted to explain to you today in a bit more detail. I've spoken before about, in order to achieve what you want in business, it's important to have your brain working optimally. Why would you expect one part of your body, i.e. your brain, to work optimally if the rest of your body was really, subpar level? Why would you expect just that bit on its own to start working? Well, I want to just go into that in a little bit more detail and give it a bit more of a scientific explanation as to why the two go hand in hand. So just very simply, just to talk about the brain for a minute, there are two bits that are important I want to talk about today about the brain. There is the prefrontal cortex, the PFC, it's at the front. And that part of the brain is responsible for decision making, for rational thought, for basically they call it the adult in the room, the one that's got empathy, to follow through, etc. And then you've got another part of the brain I want to talk about today called the amygdala, which I've mentioned before. It's at the back of the brain, and that's more the one that is instinctive. It acts on impulse. It's the child in the room, I suppose you could say. And basically, when we are working optimally, there is a very strong connection between those two. And what happens is the adult in the room, the PFC, the prefrontal cortex, takes control and suppresses the amygdala to the point where, we're not impulsive, we do follow things through, we have empathy, we care about other people, etc. So that's the first thing, is that you want that connection to be strong. Now, unfortunately, there are things in our life that break that connection down. They call it a disconnect. And when that happens, the child in the room, the amygdala, can take control. And then all sorts of things happen that we don't want. Effectively, we don't get things done. We don't follow through. We're not empathetic. We give in to impulses. And then, we're annoyed with ourselves. This is where things like addictions come from as well. So what I wanted to then talk about is that connection. How do you make sure that connection doesn't break? Or indeed, how can you strengthen that connection? Because if you go back to fitness or business for a minute, it's not like there's not a load of information around. There's information everywhere, isn't there? And if it was just a question of getting our hands on information in terms of what to do, we'd all just do it. We'd all follow through. We'd all have perfect nutrition, exercise regimes, great businesses, and there'd not be any problems at all, and no one would have to strive that hard. So it can't be for lack of information. It's much more about lack of implementation. And the reason for this lack of implementation is what I'm talking about. It is that disconnect that occurs. So the great news is that there's been a lot of research into this. And in particular, there was research in 2014 on a very wide scale. And they looked at what we can do to increase that connection, to strengthen that connection. You may have heard of neuroplasticity, which is strengthening the connections of one brain cell to another. And it's along those lines that they say that this connection between the two, the adult and the child, let's call it, the PFC and the amygdala, in other words, it boils down to a few things. And one of them, a really important one, is exercise. So by exercising, the tests have shown that you can strengthen this connection to the point where the amygdala is suppressed and the logical brain takes control and makes you stick to a routine and basically keeps everything functioning cool, calm and collectively. So when, Nike say just do it, it's easier said than done. You can't just do it. There's a lot of other factors involved, which I'm going to tell you in a minute, because if you've got that disconnect between those two parts of the brain, it's not just a question of just doing it. So there's a whole load of things to do and to try, which basically gradually increase and strengthen this connection. So the first is regular exercise. That means putting your body under some sort of pressure by cardio and weight, in particular weight training. The next thing is doing what I'm doing today, being out in nature. That has an extremely therapeutic effect and improves the connection gradually. They don't know exactly how, but between those two parts of the brain. Now, the third one, these are not necessarily in order of priority, but the third one is nutrition. And there is some evidence to say that people that are overweight, often they're not overweight because, scientifically they're overweight because they've eaten too much and they're in a calorie surplus. But that's not what makes them eat more. What makes them eat more is that the more that you are inflamed in the body, so the worse food choices that you make, so things like processed foods, and too high sugars and things like that. What happens is it causes inflammation, as you know, and the higher the inflammation in the body, this impacts that connection. It breaks that connection down. And so the more that you become inflamed because of poor eating habits, irregular eating habits and, not sort of sufficient balance of macros, etc. The more you do that, the weaker the connection is between these two parts of the brain, the more the amygdala, the child in the room, takes over, and therefore there's no rational thought, and it's like a vicious cycle. So you start to make worse food choices and just continue on that path. Whereas if you start to make better food choices, the inflammation goes down, and that's proven as well. Let me just try and come out the wind a bit. That's proven as well when I've actually had my own test. My inflammation levels are very, very low. But what we know now through the research is that the lower your inflammation levels, the better the connections are between these two parts of the brain. And so again, you get into a very positive, virtuous cycle, not a vicious one. Another important contributory factor to this connection is sleep. So on the YBMB program, we do have a big body section. As you know, we train people every day. We do have a biggest business section. I coach people both privately and in groups on business. But we have the third as well, which makes up the the whole thing, which is mindset. Because and I teach on that, the importance of sleep, because again, if you are lacking in sleep, then you become inflamed. And again, it really damages the connection. They did a really fascinating experiment, actually. They showed some harrowing pictures to sleep-deprived people compared to well-slept people, and they watched what happened with the amygdala and the levels of stress and cortisol that were emitted to the group that not had the sleep compared to the ones that had. And the amygdala is so much more active, taking over effectively when you've not had sleep. So having a really good sleeping pattern is another one. And then meditation is another one as well, where the saying is that when you meditate, what you're doing is you are strengthening the connections again through between those two body parts, between the rational and the impulsive body parts, brain parts. And so meditation is not just some sort of woo-woo, messing about with crystals and playing lovely music. It's so much more. It's absolutely fundamental to our ongoing strength, because it improves, again, this connection between those parts of the brain, and it reduces inflammation as well, and improves our neuroplasticity, which is, the renewal of making up of new brain cells and connecting them together. There's lots more to say about this, but I suppose wrapping it up, the reason I wanted to say it today on the Body Day is that we don't just go and exercise to build muscle and to get a six-pack and to look great in our bikinis or swim shorts. That's a lovely byproduct of it, but it's about what it actually does to us in terms of our ability to be productive and to get things done. Because if we can do that, then it's going to lead to high levels of satisfaction, pride, self-respect, and empathy for everybody else, other people, and making the world a better place. So there's lots of reasons to do it, and we have to start somewhere. And so what we do at YBMB is we have a very well proven method of introducing people to this world of self-care and longevity, by giving them tiny baby steps to take part in, one at a time from the beginning. So where I end up with people that have never picked up a weight before, starting off with cans of beans and even training with cups indoors, no equipment, through to being able to do proper deadlifts and squats in a gym in a really short space of time. Just coming up to the end of a full year, because we started a big cohort this time last year, and there's some really notable achievements there. They've all lost many kgs, and they've all done brilliantly at business, got new jobs, things like that, and there's some amazing stories there. And we're starting again in this summer, taking another cohort, and you can follow in their footsteps. In fact, we've refined it even more now, so there's even better sort of options that you can take to give a bit more flexibility as well. So, but we are always looking at the science behind these things and doing everything very much with intelligence. It's not just, let's just, follow the latest fad diet so that we can get a thin, flat tummy and show some muscle. That's a lovely side effects of it. But what we're trying to do is to build a really strong body and a strong brain, and then to live. I mean, the people that I was listening to at the weekend truly believe they're going to live to 180. So whereas I've been saying 150, they're talking about 180. And if you are going to live that long, beyond, let's say, 120, that's a lot of years to live. And so we need to be clear on how we're going to pay for ourselves, and also what impact we're going to make in the world. And that means that we want to be productive. We want to follow things through. We don't want to be setting goals on a Sunday night and come Monday afternoon, they've all gone to pot. We want to get things done, don't we? That's what we can help you do. And I'd love to see you join us on YBMB. And if you've got any other questions about this, then do let me know. So I'm going to carry on now on this lovely walk, and hopefully I'll get home before it starts to rain. So have a lovely week, and take care.